Good evening and welcome to Slam the Gavel, the show that tells it all regarding family court, other court issues, as well as CPS. I'm your host, Marianne Petrie, and today I've got a very special guest. Her name is Jillian Coburn. She is an entrepreneur, two-time published author, advocate, inventor of the MOMMYGOBAG, outdoorswoman, and mother of three. Jillian Coburn is passionately committed to supporting and elevating women who often have nowhere to turn. A survivor herself, Jillian helps other women living with abuse, teaching them how to get out, heal, and build a better life. Jillian is a co-owner of NOLA Prestige Electric, a women minority disabled veteran-based contracting company. Jillian was recently appointed to the board of directors of SCSA, where the entire board unanimously voted for her to ascend to the chairman of the board of SCSA. She also sits as the vice president of women's support programs. She also was on a committee where she and her colleagues triumphed, passing Bill 492, allowing victims of childhood sexual abuse to have their day in court. Now, in its final form, the statutes of limitations has been completely eliminated, and there is a 3-year retro, which is a look-back window, which now covers all survivors and victims. Here, next to states to conquer, will be Texas and Michigan. Her dream is to have all states follow the new trend of eliminating the statutes of limitation for childhood survivors. Energetic and involved in speaking and outreach, Jillian continues striving women and men in situations of domestic violence to get out safely. She also has been working with victims of the Boy Scouts of America, victims, human trafficking victims, and those who need to escape but empower them to pursue the life they've always imagined. Healing, listening, and providing tools is her expertise. Jillian spends her time on the lake or at her home creating new books. She is readily involved with TAASA and ETT Women Warriors Group, and is readily involved in her children's lives. She enjoys traveling and spending time with her kids. She lives and works in Lago Vista, Texas, with her husband and 3 children. She has written the book, My Ugly Truth After Abuse, which can be found on Amazon. I will put all the links in the podcast notes, and I completely welcome you, Jillian Coburn. How are you?
I'm well. Thanks for asking.
I'm so glad to have you on because you've done so much. Passing a bill, Bill 492. I mean, just to jump into it, how hard was that to do?
It was quite surprising to tell you. I never thought that I would be part of change for the future of the children and, of course, the survivors that never had their day in court to, have and stand in front to provide justice. And I'm super thrilled. I'm motivated to extend that reach and to continue that, still board of, hey, let's get everyone the justice that they deserve in every single state, because most people who are survivors don't come out until the age of about 63 years of age. And so tapping into legislative and them agreeing, well, you only have a certain amount of time, it's kind of not fair. And so to allow victims to come forward and be able to begin their healing process, I think is a beautiful thing.
Mm-hmm. No, that's good because when something like that happens at a very young age, I'm sure they compartmentalize it. And then it comes out as they even raise their families, they start remembering things.
Triggers.
Yes.
It's stuck in the frontal lobe of our brains, and
Mm-hmm.
then smell, the senses that we have, something can just basically unravel it. And you're like, oh, wow, I didn't even know that. Because there's so many different ways that people cope with trauma. They can freeze up, they can fight or flight. And, it's interesting to understand how our body protects ourselves. So we may not have noticed that growing up, some of the certain things that happened to us were abuse, but we only know what we know, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I think it's very important to educate everyone amongst us to know that this is more of a stigma, that people don't want to talk about it, and becoming aware, educating our students, educating our children, educating our educators, and of course, our police, CPS, OCS, all of these organizations so that they're aware and to take action, because I would hate for anyone to have the injustice of not being spoken out about what had happened to them. A lot of times, survivors, it happens within the home.
Mm-hmm.
Abuse does not discriminate. It does not at all. It can happen with your neighbor. It can happen within your home. It can happen within an organization. It's all about the control that the predator has, that he does to his victim, he or she.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and those people have no remorse. They have no
Yeah.
conscience.
Mm-mm. It's sad. It's sad because when you finally, I've worked with several victims who have come forward and they've approached or, had their day to where they asked their victim, their predator, hey, why did you do this? And a lot of times that predator's like, has nothing to say. And it's like, wow. But, that just goes to the whole narcissistic personality and the traits of a sociopath, and tends to have a lot of traits that a predator does, have, which is control, power and control.
Mm-hmm. And that's like the coercive control that they just continuously manipulate their victim with.
It's sad. There was a story I heard from a victim in Louisiana, and she was being abused by her stepbrother. And she never came forward until he died. And she was afraid to alert her mom because she didn't want to break up the home that the mom had created. So there's a lot of guilt and shame that a victim faces, and embarrassment coming forward about what's happened to them, and to basically compartmentalize and break down what's happened to them. It's challenging for some. And there's a lot of roadblocks that a victim experiences when they do come forward, and they're like, well, why did I wait so long? Well, there's a lot of obstacles that they were waiting on. And in the long run, I think that providing that safe environment and letting others know, hey, it's okay, I'm here for you, let's provide some action, and show them that they're going to be heard. Because a lot of times it's not the justice that a person really wants, is just to be heard, to be told that, hey, it wasn't your fault. And maybe they were told that, oh, this is okay. I mean, I've heard stories of, even men and women where it's happened within their home, and it's done by a parent, so it's incest, and so they're embarrassed and shameful, and they thought it was the normal thing. They thought that they were the prize, or that it was something that everyone did experience. And then as they grew older and they actually educated themselves, they're like, whoa, I got to look at this, like, I was being abused. And so I just think, as being an advocate, it's important just to be an active listener and provide the help, whatever that may be, just listening, or providing them resources that they can tap into so that they can begin their healing journey.
Mm-hmm. And I'm sure they probably tell you when they come to you that their own families have retaliated on them because now they've brought
I didn't
this
believe
forward.
them.
Right.
Sometimes they'll say, oh, I don't believe you, that you're making that up. And it's like, that's why most people don't come forward, because they're told that they're lying about something and they're not. And that's a lot of just shame going on. It's a lot of just processing in your brain, like, well, my family's saying that this never happened. Like, maybe did I make it up? And second guessing themselves. And you shouldn't second guess yourself. If it doesn't feel right, 9 out of 10 times, it's not right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people don't know this, or they have low self-esteem because this has happened to them. How do you elevate someone's self-esteem?
There's a lot of tools that I provide. First thing is to, stop worrying about everyone else and begin worrying about you. Knowing your self-worth. What does that look like? Stating those affirmations. I'm good. I'm enough. I'm worthy. Really reflecting on why you're still here. A lot of times people are like, man, I just wish I was dead. I wish that, I wasn't even here. I deserve this. No one deserves that.
Mm-hmm.
God created all of us, and there's a reason why we're still alive. There's a purpose. And in order to find that purpose, you have to look deep within and know that, hey, I'm okay. I'm worthy enough. And a lot of times people who are victimized have no self-worth, and it's basically a repeated cycle. I can attest, I was in several domestic violence, abusive relationships. And I repeated the same cycle over and over. And it's because I didn't feel that I was worthy enough. And until I really looked at myself like, man, you're badass. Like, you deserve everything. You deserve to have that voice. You deserve to stand up for yourself because you were here. What is your purpose? And really acknowledging what your purpose is. And it takes a while. You know, it took me years until I realized that I am worthy. I deserve so much more. I guess my aha moment would have to be, you know, when I left my first husband, and he would tell me, you're never going to find anyone. You have 2 children. No one's ever going to love you. And it's like, we align and agree with others, think of the judgments that they think of us. Well, that's not true, you know? And it was really hard for me to get out of that repeated cycle of hearing, I'm not worthy, I'm not good enough. And so I tell people it's super important to start that day off by saying, hey, I'm alive. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm worthy. I'm enough. And even ending that day with the 3 things that you're grateful for, or even things that you contributed to others, because you do see, hey, I am worthy. If it wasn't for me, I wouldn't be here. That
Mm-hmm.
person wouldn't have made that one step. Or maybe, you know, being able to provide a future, because a lot of times we sit and we resonate in our past. So I try to elevate that person to know that there is a future, providing a roadmap. The whole reason why I wrote my book was because I wanted the book to be like a good friend, because good friends tell you, hey, that's not right. A bad friend's going to be like, yeah, keep doing that. That's okay. You can put up with that. And I think I wanted to write the book because I never had any resources. I never knew that there was things that I could, tangible items that I could go to and actually process what had happened to me to get better and to better myself for my own children, you know? So when I'm working with someone who has children, I'm like, well, is there any way that you can really focus in on how your children need you? Can you imagine if you weren't there for them? How would that look like? So providing a whole nother, I guess, dialogue for them to look at, instead of, I'm not good enough, I don't deserve this, because there's so many resources that you can tap into that can elevate you. We don't have to go into the scarcity role of like, oh, I can't do that. I can't. Well, change what's coming out of your mouth. I can't
Mm-hmm.
do that instead of I can't. So it's just a lot of dialogue going on with our own selves and retraining the way that we talk to ourselves and the way that we treat ourselves.
Mm-hmm. And that's important to heal, because you've got to be able to, you know, help other people. Like if they have children, they have to be there for them emotionally fit as well. Do you also, I'm sure you also see people that are heavily depressed,
Yes.
and, you know, maybe they're crying all the time. You know, have you, you know, maybe encourage like a physician? Do they, you know, to see someone?
So a lot of times when I'm noticing a dissociative disorder, noticing bipolar, schizophrenia, things like that, they're like, well, I can't go get help. I don't have insurance. And I'm like, well, technically, if you don't have a job and you don't have anything, you can actually get free healthcare. And that free healthcare can provide resources. So I actually help them identify where they're at and find them the help that they need. There's a site that I use, I can't think of right now. It's on my search engine, that provides them different types of doctors. And even if you have a severe case, I love to suggest for them to take the time to walk into a hospital and let them know, I'm having these thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
They'll take you, and then you'll be able to be put into a treatment facility program, and then you really could process everything you've gone through. You
Mm-hmm.
know, sometimes a lot of people don't need medication. And a lot of times people are scared to take medication,
Mm-hmm.
and there's other modalities that you can choose to start creating better choices and better dialogue for your own health, your own good, you know, because it is a disease. And when you're disease, the definition of disease is not at ease with yourself. And so in order to really understand that, hey, something's not okay within me, but there's other ways that I can heal myself to make me feel better,
Mhm.
going outside, taking walks, and really just appreciating everything amongst you. You really don't center into that whenever you are facing depression. You don't know what's wrong with you. You don't know why you're feeling that way. And so it's really important to really dive deep within and identify those triggers, those things that are emotionally making you unstable.
Mhm.
I tell people, addiction is something that I see a lot with survivors, that they turn to alcohol or they turn to
Mhm.
drugs in order to cope, right?
Mhm.
Well, I try to tell them and share with them that's only going to mask the band-aid. It's like a band-aid. And as soon as you stop, the pain's still there.
Mhm.
So I'm a firm believer in EMDR. EMDR is phenomenal. It's been life-changing for me. It starts with the first trauma, and it's like a timeline. Whenever you're working with your therapist, it really dissipates the energetic charges that we get when we have those sensations of the traumas that we've experienced. And I definitely suggest people to try that. There's so many resources out there that I think are amazing, that we're doing new discoveries of new testing. And it's amazing to see how our brain, we only tap into probably about 10% of it.
Mhm.
Our brain can be rewired, but it takes work, and you have
Mhm.
to be willing to do the work. If you're not doing the work for your own self, no one's going to do it for you. No
Mhm.
one can tap into your brain and tell you what to think, what to do. You have to do the work.
Mhm. Now, have you counseled families and the victim at the same time, or?
I haven't really done that. It's been more one-on-one work.
Mhm.
I can attest that abuse affects the entire family.
Mhm.
It's not just that victim, it's affecting the children, it's affecting the siblings, it's affecting your mom and your dad, it's affecting communities too.
Mhm.
And we don't realize the triathletic effect that happens when this does take place. It's affecting everyone. Just like I know that if I would have stayed in an abusive relationship, I'm teaching my daughter that, hey, it's okay to be bullied. It's okay to be beat up. It's okay to be treated this way. No, that's not true. And then I'm also teaching my boys that it's okay for a man and for them to be the way that that abuser is in the family, in the dynamic, and everyone should be cherished, everyone should be appreciated, and everyone should be looked at as a beautiful being. That's why we're here.
Mhm.
So I think it's important to, when this does happen, that there is group therapy going on, so that everyone in the household is familiar with what's going on with them.
Mhm.
A very quiet and docile child may be experiencing depression, and they're afraid to talk about it because mom or dad may not be doing anything for their own self. So again, our children are really watching us,
Mhm.
and they're taking in every single thing that we're doing. So it's important to be very conscious about what we are showing them,
Mhm.
presenting them as in for instance, as a table. If you're setting a table out, you notice how people eat, how they, who's going to eat first. And the same thing goes with the whole dynamics of a home. You are teaching your children what they're seeing at the same time. So it's
Mhm.
just really important to be mindful of that. If you are in a situation, have someone to go to, have someone to talk to, and have that action plan of what you're going to do and execute it, and make sure that you are going to do it and not dabble back out. And that happens a lot with people who are facing domestic violence relationships. The hardest part is leaving. Um, and it's scary. It's scary because you've been told that you're not going to be able to make it, and that's not true. I've met so many people who are brilliant and gone on to become doctors, to go on to become attorneys, to become teachers, because they chose themselves.
Mhm. Right, they've gotta help us. Like, maybe some people are stronger than others, do you think? Um,
Absolutely.
you know
I know when I left, it was so hard. The first time ever leaving, I thought about it so many times, and I just couldn't do it. I had no ability of knowing that I had the power within me. I had a college degree, for God's sakes, and I could have gone and just got a teaching job and told my mom, hey, I need help. But I was so embarrassed. I was so shamed. I shamed myself. And
Mhm.
it's a scary thing, but it's important to elevate yourself by surrounding yourself with people that really truly care and are motivating you to be your best self.
Mhm. And I'm sure there's relatives that, hear that now this person is getting help, and then they chastise them.
I've heard that there's,
And
go ahead.
oh, you no, you go ahead.
There's a group member I was listening to in a show that I was doing last night, and he no one talks to him, and it's
Mm,
because he came out about something that happened within the family, and so he's exiled from the family unit, and that's heartbreaking, because you decided to speak out about something, and now you're being told you're alone. But he shares that he's not alone, that there are memories of his grandfather who and grandparents who took care of him, and he tries to know that his relationship with God, who he believes in,
mm,
is something that he always focuses in on whenever he starts to have those sad and grief feelings that he's been exiled from his own home. So it's sad,
mm,
and it's heartbreaking, and it's like, what do you do in those types of situations? It's okay to divorce your family members if they're not being treating you fairly. It's okay. Just
mhm,
because they're family, it doesn't mean that you have to take the more abuse. It's okay to step back and realize, hey, I got this. I can find other friends that are like family, that are supporting me and elevating me to be my best self.
mhm. Oh, that's very true. I'm so glad you said that, because some families, regardless of the situation, whether there has been sexual abuse or not, I mean, families have different dynamics. And, it's like when you go to TJ Maxx and you see, those signs that say "family together," things like that. It's like I look for the ones that say "friends forever," that
Right.
type.
You realize that your best friends become your family, those people that supported you at your worst moment.
Mm,
That's what a family is supposed to do. Love you regardless, unconditional love. And it's a sad thing, but it's a reality to know that it can happen. It does happen. We are amongst a population of, oh, it's a secret. Don't say anything. It shouldn't be a secret. If it's a secret, then it's probably not right.
right, right. And I think it's some of that cancel culture mentality where they just believe whatever and don't, there's two sides to the coin, but I don't know. I don't know what to think of that.
I agree. It's hard for me to process, right? I can remember the first time that I thought about leaving because of abuse. I had a family relative say, well, it'll get better. It happened to me. And it was like, what? Like, you allowed this? Like, no wonder why things look the way they do in your family, and
Mhm,
I don't
mhm,
want that. I want my children to be overachievers. I want them to be the best versions of themselves. And
mhm,
I'm just showing them that I'm a piece of poop and anyone can walk all over me. And I don't want anyone to feel like that. But I can't imagine being in an environment where I was being chastised because I decided to better myself,
mhm.
to
I
take
think
care of myself.
yeah, I think that happens in a lot of families. I think,
Mhm.
you know, um, I don't know if you know any statistics, I don't, but I see this in a lot of families when there's something going on or someone has, become a doctor and then suddenly, their siblings really don't want anything to do with them because they went and achieved something, and they're jealous over that.
Yeah. I haven't really done any statistics on that, but I'm curious now to know what the level of, you know, wrongness for bettering themselves, like why. I guess I don't understand it because my mom always wanted us to be educated. She always wanted us to like do whatever our heart told us to do, right?
Mhm,
Doesn't matter what it is, do something for yourself. And I can't imagine being told, hey, I don't want to have anything to do with you because you decided to become a doctor, or you decided to like be the CEO of your own company and you're rocking it,
mhm,
gosh, that must be hard. Those must be a lot of emotions to digest. I can't imagine,
mhm. Yeah, it's sad. It's sad what people go through. Some people have really hard lives, some people have really easy lives. I can't figure it out. It's but you want people to thrive and get better and not live in the past.
Exactly.
So, how do you tell a patient, don't live in the past, just keep thinking of, like, have hobbies, do things to,
So
um
I asked them, what is it that they want? If they could design their own pathway, what would that look like? The definition of wanting something is that you're lacking something. So if
mhm,
you're able to draw it out, write it out, and create the life that would be fitting for you, you can do it. It just takes a lot of work, just like a lot of mental work that we have to do within ourselves to keep motivating us to move forward. Same thing with financial, right?
mhm,
Financial abuse, when you have a partner who is constantly saying, well, I pay this, I do that, blah, 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 that whole dialogue. Well, how could you create something? What are you best at? What does that look like? Let's talk about that. So I like to tell people, write out what you would like your life to be like in 5 years. That's
mhm,
simple, right? Just
mhm,
writing something down. Okay, well, maybe they're good at like painting rocks. I know that
mhm,
sounds silly, but I try to help them like, okay, well, there's free sites like Etsy. You can put your stuff on there, but let's be realistic. If you're wanting to be financially on your own, you're going to have to get a job.
mhm,
So what may not be what you want right now, there are a baby step to starting what you can be.
mhm,
I know there's a lot of women's shelters out there that design programs to get work for you and work that you actually want. I have a degree in education and I have no desire whatsoever to be a teacher ever, right?
mhm, right.
And and you don't have to have a degree to be something. There's so many entities, different things that you can do that you can elevate yourself and create the money that you never had, right?
Mhm,
It
mhm,
just, again, takes the work. Focusing on the future, creating, those, gosh, I can't think of them right now. I do them every year at the beginning, like a manifestation board, right?
mhm, mhm,
Going to library. The library has tons of magazines that you can take out and then just like seeing something and putting it. The law of attraction is true. If you say something, you see it. You'll see on my mirrors, I'll have like affirmations of like what I desire and what I want, right?
mhm,
And it really does work. And it's just changing that mindset, putting that energetic pathway, there's different pathways, energies that we are creating. So we're attracting it. So if I'm constantly in blame, shame, disparity, well, guess what's going to happen? That's all
mhm,
that's going to come to me.
mhm,
But if I'm in wealth and abundance, I'm going to attract that. Things are going to come to me. You have to be willing to take it however it may look, because the universe is going to go knock on the next door and be like, hey, I'm going to go ask the next person. So you have to be openly available for possibilities that come forth for you. And just experiment with them. If you don't like it, okay, cool. I've had so many jobs, like, until you truly find, like, that's my son, he's having problems. He's like, I don't know what I want to be. And I'm like, it's okay. Like, you're a junior in high school. You're not going to figure that out until later on, just because
mhm,
your sister has it figured out, it does not mean that you're not going to be able to figure out. But whatever your heart is desiring you to do it. Whatever is making your heart beat, do it. And I think you have to really be passionate about something. And when you're really passionate about something, it's going to just show up. I've created so many different things, and I'm always constantly changing, and that's okay. Change is good.
mhm,
When we're in that same pattern of thinking, possibilities won't show up. We're all infinite beings, and it's just tapping into the possibilities that are sitting literally right in front of us.
mhm. And I feel sorry, or I feel bad for the people that maybe they're not ready to move forward,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
They're stuck.
Yeah, they're stuck, and how do you help them get unstuck?
Well, like we were chatting before,
Yeah.
I'm not going to chase anybody.
Mhm,
And I'm going to not judge that person. I'm going to be an allowance and awareness of, hey, that's where they are. I've given everything. I'm not going to exhaust my own self. I'm not going to pull someone or drag someone out of a situation until they're ready.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
until you're ready, you can only make that choice. I can't force anybody. So I'm just like, okay, this person's not there yet. I'm not going to provide my help any longer because I don't want to be mentally drained. I don't want to attract that. You know, I've worked so hard to be where I'm at now.
Mhm,
So I'm okay with saying, well, that person's just not for me. They're not ready
mhm,
yet. And when they are ready, they'll come back. And my door is right open, but you got to be able to take those steps.
mhm.
You yourself have to be willing to do it because I'm not going to be chasing you down. I
Right,
had no one chasing me down.
right, yep. I don't maybe people think it's just too hard, they don't wanna confront it yet, and their family maybe is being very nasty to them, and they just are really stuck, and they don't wanna maybe rock the boat because they're afraid to lose some
Right.
family members.
Yeah. It breaks my heart because I've seen a lot of people who just stay and they stay and it's like you're affecting your children. You are not being your best version of yourself and you have so much potential. What are you doing? You know, but I believe mental illness is a very big thing.
Mm,
And whenever you're not addressing, knowing that there's something wrong with you, you're going to stay. You're just stuck. You're going to
mhm,
mask yourself with alcohol. You're going to mask yourself with some form of addiction. Eating is an addiction. Spending is an addiction. There's so many forms of addiction out there that people are masking these pains because they don't want to face it.
mhm,
And I mean, again, I'm not judging it.
mhm.
It's their choice. Anything and everything is possible. But again, you got to be willing to do the work. I'll keep saying
Yeah,
it.
yeah, that's fine, that's fine. Ho as we, can I ask how long did it take you to write your book? Tell us about your book.
So I began writing my book about 2010.
Mhm,
And I had got out of a very abusive relationship where my face was fractured. I was working for a nationwide author, and she really inspired me because she would write all these books, and I was like in charge of like publishing them and putting them on all these networks. And so I not only worked for her, I ran her nonprofit, and I just had to stop this cycle of abuse that I was doing since the age of 16.
mhm,
And again, I wanted to be able to provide a resource, not a doctor,
mhm,
not someone who's never experienced it, because I've been to so many therapists who say, oh, I agree. Well, have you ever been abused? Do you know what I'm feeling?
mm,
I wanted my book to be a friend. I wanted the person reading it to know that I'm human too. I've had choices that I've made and created the life that I created by making those wrong choices. I'm not a perfect person. And so I began writing about 2010. 2011, I allowed someone to come stay at my house and had this a mini HP, and had all of my transcripts on there. And he was a friend of mine that I went to high school, but he was a drug addict, and he ended up pawning the laptop. And I lost all the material. And
oh,
fast forward in 2013, I got remarried, and my husband was like, you need to quit this job. It's a stressful environment. It wasn't, my job had become being a caretaker for two women who were drug addicts. And I'm like, I can't be doing this. Like, it's so stressful. Like,
mhm,
I'm being a codependent person. I got to let it go. And so my husband's like, I was pregnant with twins. I lost one of the babies because of the
mm,
stress. And so I decided to quit my job and I began writing again.
mhm,
And it took a while, and I decided to hire a ghostwriter to help me write the book. And, you know, you live and you learn. Um, I went through two different ghostwriters because they couldn't get my language out the way that I wanted it. I wanted it again to be a guidebook. I wanted people to have things that they could reflect on, things that they could be aware of, and begin there. And I wanted to share a little bit of my story, so again, people can know that I'm not this like multimillionaire who decided to write a book. Like, I'm a normal girl who has had a lot of traumas, you know. So I would say about 2016, I was almost done with my book, and my husband was being deployed again for the military, so I had to kind of take a break and be present and be like a full-time single mom. And 2017, the ultimate abuse happened. I was abused by a priest. And so I felt that I needed to address spiritual abuse in my book because that's not talked about. And 2018, I finished the book, and I began my book tour in 2019. And so it covers all forms of abuse: sexual, financial, verbal, mental, spiritual, every single form of abuse, and identifies what to look for and what you can do in those circumstances. So again, I wanted to write the book and provide a roadmap for people in shelters, people who don't have anywhere to go. I wanted my book to be their best friend, to walk them through a very difficult journey. And I've helped so many women and men get out, get safe, and do what's best for them.
That's very important. That sounds like a great book. That's what people need. They need like a roadmap. They need guidance. Some people have no idea where to turn, who to go to. And where can people find your book?
It's on Amazon. So it's simply easy just to Google my name, Jillian Coburn, and it'll pop up. After writing this memoir, I had to do something refreshing. So I wrote a cookbook, and so they're like, that's completely opposite of what you've been doing. But something I love to do is cooking, and it provides a lot of ease. You know, you talked about hobbies that make you feel good. That's something I love to do, is cooking. I love, you know, painting. That's something also I love
Yeah,
doing.
me too.
It's very tranquil. And so I think when we find that median of what makes us feel good, do it. Do whatever makes
definitely.
you
Well, the book that you wrote, your second book, is Spicy Cajun with Love for Southern Louisiana Food, Quick and Easy Recipes, written by a Spicy Cajun South of 110.
I-10. So there's a joke.
I-10. Oh.
I'm originally from Lafayette, Louisiana, and so that's Cajun country. And so we joke around with northern Louisianers because the Holy Trinity is called onions, green peppers, and garlic.
Right.
And there's another thing. So like we joke around with our like people from Alexandria or Shreveport. We're like, that's not Louisiana. You don't even use the Holy Trinity. So we like to be specific because like certain things that you won't find up north is like boudin. You won't find you know, your mixings that you need. And the greatest thing about living in central Louisiana, south of I-10, is that we always have fresh seafood. So
nice.
Very comfort food, a lot of rice and gravy.
Oh, I like that. I'm going to check that out. So how long did it take? Now, I mean,
That
how long
one
does
took
it
me a quick second to write.
Really? Oh, wow.
They're easy recipes. So a lot of times when I was a single mom, I had to, you know, have food ready for my two older ones when they got home. So like red beans and rice is super easy to create. And it was a fun book. It was really fun to be able to make all these dishes I already create and then just basically, you know, just do it, you know, like just write it out. And I did it on my own. And I think that one took me like 6 months to write. If that, it was fun. And so I had a lot of fun. It wasn't very deep and dark and,
right.
you know, addressing those abuses. That I wanted to do something that was refreshing for me. And it was very therapeutic. I'll tell you that.
Well, that's excellent. That's excellent. So, you readily involved yourself with TAASA. Um,
TASA, so that's Texas Against Sexual Assault. It's an
mhm,
organization based out of Austin, Texas. There's a task force group that has so many different unique people that are working on human trafficking, that
mhm,
are working on sexual assaults. Recently, Texas just passed a law to where they had all their rape kits. They were
mhm,
just sitting in this, I guess, center where they weren't processing it. And so they put a lot of pressure and they created a bill to where they were processing all of the rape kits. And so they were putting them into the system. And I think that's important because a lot of times when you have someone who has been assaulted or abused, it's not like they're in a system, right? A violent offender, it's in the NASB reporting system. So when a cop does come on, they know that there is a violent offender in the home. But I know that they were working on a systematic approach to put abusers in that system. So when they did get a call, and it was a strange call, the police will be notified that, hey, this is a victim, and how can we get them into a safe environment? And
mhm,
I think that's tremendously amazing because a lot of times offenders will just, find their predators and redo it
mhm,
again.
mhm,
If you're vulnerable, you're easily coaxed. You'll be one of the
mhm,
what are their prey? They'll prey upon you, but they do a lot of great work. And I'm really hoping that we can definitely, put the punchline in there and do what we did in Louisiana and open up the statute of limitations for those Texas folks that have been denied justice. And I think that's super important.
mhm. I think that's excellent. Um,
I think that police officers, a stigma that I saw moving out here in Texas and being part of TASA and being part of these webinars is that a lot of times police officers don't believe you, or they're like, oh, she deserved that. She's a prostitute and she put herself in that situation.
mhm,
I'm pretty sure that a lot of times people who have been trafficked, it started because they were in a group home, possibly they were in CPS care,
mhm,
and something happened. And again, if all you know is what you know, you're going to just provide that lifelong statistic that no one's going to believe you, no one's going to help you, and you're going to create the same thing over and over again, and I'm glad that they're educating police officers. I'm glad they're educating nurses to have better bedside manner, to really
mhm,
take victims who decide to come forward. I mean, that's like a really hard thing to do, is to go to the hospital and say, hey, I was just brutally battered, what do? They're supposed to notify the police right away. And so a lot of times they don't, because there's a stigma of the way that you look, the environment that you're coming from. They're not going to do it. So I think it's great that we are now educating everyone about this so that they're more mindful when these types of cases come into their office, into their hospitals, and whenever they go out and to serve and take care of people.
Oh, that's excellent. That is. I'd like to have you back on the show again if you like.
Absolutely.
I think the more we talk and spread the word, maybe someone out there will be listening and may want to contact you. How do you want to be contacted?
They can reach me on my email. It's simple. Hello, HELLO, at Jillian, JILLIAN, Coburn, COBURN.com. I'm really great about contacting people right back and providing whatever I can. And I love collaborating and getting ideas to see how I can help within that community. Maybe, your state hasn't opened up those laws, how
Mhm.
can we get, a task force, a team of survivors to come to write to their legislators, say, hey, how can we change the law? Because the law can be changed. It just takes a lot of manpower, and numbers to speak.
Right. A lot of work, a lot goes into that. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
I want to thank you. Thank you for having this and having me and allowing me to speak, because ultimately we have our voices and it should never be muzzled.
Exactly. Keep talking. I
Yeah,
always tell people, just keep talking.
keep talking. Someone's going to hear you.
Definitely. Well, don't jump off. Slam the
Okay.
Gavel is a podcast to help the public understand what really goes on in the family courtrooms. I'm your host, Marianne Petrie, author of Dismantling Family Court Corruption, Why Taking the Kids Was Not Enough, and Cry Out for Justice, Poems of Truth. Please join us again here with Jillian and other guests and for another exciting episode. Thank you, Jillian.
Thank you.